The last seat at the council chamber was the most powerful room in the galaxy. Its walls shone with silver and crystal, filled with voices from 100 alien species. Every seat was taken by leaders who ruled their own star systems. Every voice echoed with pride, authority, and arrogance. And in the very back, almost forgotten, sat the human ambassador. His chair was smaller, his desk plain. The other species always made sure humanity's seat looked weaker. Less important, it was a reminder of their place, a reminder that humans were not respected, not trusted, not seen as equals. The alien leaders often whispered, never caring that humans could hear. They are too young a species, one lizard-like. General hissed, they spread too fast, but their claws are soft. Another alien said, its eyes glowing. A bird-like diplomat added with a cold laugh. Humans talk of peace because they cannot handle war, the human ambassador. A tall man named Elias Rain kept silent. He had listened to these words for years. Mockery had become part of every session. Every insult thrown at his people was like another stone on his back. But Elias never bowed his head. He sat straight, his hands calm, because he knew something the others did not. On that day, the chamber was louder than ever. The council was voting on new restrictions, a law that would strip humanity of its outer colonies. The excuse was simple. Humans were too weak to protect them, so the council would guard those colonies for them. But everyone knew the truth. It was theft. It was control. It was another way to make humanity kneel. Elias listened to the vote begin. One alien after another raised their hand, their voices sharp and cruel. Remove the humans' rights. They are a danger to themselves. They should be kept where we can see them. The ambassador clenched his fist beneath the desk, but his face never changed. He let them finish. He let their arrogance flow until the last word was spoken. Then, in the silence that followed, a shadow moved beside Elias. A quiet figure placed a sealed document on his desk. No one else noticed, but Elias looked down, and his heart beat once, heavy and strong. It was the signal he had been waiting for, the message from Earth itself, the final order from his people. When the speaker of the council turned to Elias and said, "Human, state your compliance." The chamber grew still. Everyone expected him to bow, to thank them for their guidance, to accept humanity's chains as always. But Elias stood. His chair scraped against the crystal floor. The sound cut through the chamber like a blade. Every alien eye turned toward him, their expressions twisted with amusement. "Ah, the human speaks," one alien whispered with mockery. Elias looked across the room. He saw the banners of the council hanging above, symbols of control, symbols of lies, and then he spoke, his voice calm but filled with steel. "Today," he said, "humanity will no longer bow to this chamber." Gasps filled the air. "You call us weak," Elias continued, his voice rising. "You call us fragile, childish, reckless. But you fear what you do not understand, and you will learn that fear soon enough." The chamber erupted in shouts. Silence. One alien leader demanded, "You dare defy this council?" Another hissed, but Elias raised his hand, and his voice thundered over theirs. "We came here in good faith. We believed in unity. We believed in peace, but peace does not exist here. Only arrogance, only chains." He paused, and in that pause, a silence heavy as space itself filled the room. "From this moment, humanity withdraws," Elias declared. "We leave the council. We reject your laws. We walk our own path." Chamber shook with outrage. Leaders shouted, screamed, threatened. But Elias did not wait. He turned, took the sealed document, and walked out of the chamber. The door shut behind him with a heavy echo. The council was left stunned. The humans had never done this before. No species had ever dared to walk out. And yet Elias had not begged. He had not pleaded. He had simply left. In the silence, a question began to rise among the council members. If the humans truly were weak, if they truly were fragile, then why did their ambassador walk out with such confidence? The last seat of the council now stood empty, but somewhere beyond the stars, something had already begun to move, something that would change the universe forever. The silence after departure, the council chamber had never been this quiet. For centuries, every session had been filled with noise arguments, laughter, insults, power, but now the silence after Alias Rhine walked out was heavier than any war. The banners above still swayed gently. The leaders stared at the empty chair. It was only one seat, the smallest seat in the chamber, but without the human sitting there, it suddenly felt as if something was missing, something dangerous, one alien. Finally broke the silence. A scaled warrior, his armor flashing in the light. "Let them go," he spat. "Humans are nothing. They will return crawling back when they realize they cannot survive without us." The others laughed, their voices full of arrogance. "Yes, humans are too weak. They are reckless, emotional. They cannot last alone. They will beg for forgiveness before the next cycle ends." But not everyone was laughing. The far corner, an insectoid scholar rubbed its thin hands together nervously. "They left too easily," it whispered to its neighbor. "No protests, no cries, no pleas. They simply walked away." Its words were drowned by the noise. The council quickly moved to the next agenda, but even as they spoke of trade and borders, their eyes kept glancing at the empty chair, and the silence in their hearts grew. Far away, in the highly void of deep space, human convoys moved like shadows. Cargo ships once common in galactic trade now vanished from known routes. Alien merchants called it sudden disorganization, but it was not chaos. It was withdrawal, a quiet pulling back. Step by step, system by system, the council's patrol fleets tried to follow. But they always found silence, stations abandoned, satellites powered down. It was as if humanity had erased its footprints from the stars. In the great trade hubs, whispers began. Where are the humans? Why are their ships gone? Why? Do they no longer sell their metals, their medicines, their machines? The galaxy was built on flow, on routes of fuel, food, and energy. And humanity had been everywhere. Their convoys reached places even the great powers ignored. They connected systems like threads in a web, and now those threads were vanishing at. First, the council dismissed it. "Let them hide," they said. "The galaxy is stronger without them." But merchants began to complain. Colonies shouted of shortages and smaller worlds. The ones who depended on human traders began to grow restless. In a dim chamber on a council world, a group of leaders gathered. They spoke in whispers, away from public ears. "Something is wrong," one muttered. "Humans do not act this way. If they were weak, they would beg for help. If they were afraid, they would shout. But this silence feels like planning." An elder alien leaned forward, his eyes burning. "I remember their wars," he said. "Long before they joined the council, they were called violent, untamed, yet they built fleets in secret, and when their enemies mocked them, they answered with fire. Perhaps history repeats." The others shifted uncomfortably. No one liked to admit fear of a species they had mocked for so long. But in their hearts, the doubt grew. Meanwhile, on a lonely edge of space, a council scout ship drifted toward human territory. The pilot, a thin blue-skinned officer, adjusted his scanners. He muttered nervously to his crew. "Command ordered us to investigate. Find where the humans went." At first, the scanners showed emptiness. Cold stars, dark planets, silent stations. Then suddenly, a blinding pulse of energy appeared on the edge of their sensors. The ship trembled. The crew gasped. "What is that? A storm? A weapon?" The pilot zoomed the feed, and there it was. A structure the size of a moon, floating in the dark, covered in machines, cranes and lights. A massive shipyard, building something vast, something terrifying. The crew stared in silence. One whispered, "They are not weak. They are preparing." The pilot's hands shook as he sent the message back to the council. But before the signal reached halfway across space, the feed cut to static, the ship vanished from every chart. Only silence remained. Back in the council chamber, Elias Rain's chair still stood empty, but whispers had started to spread among the alien leaders. Merchants were restless, colonies were angry. And now rumors of human constructions whispered like ghosts in every corridor. The arrogant laughter from before grew quieter, and fear, slow and heavy, began to creep in. For the first time in centuries, the council faced a silence it could not explain, and beyond the stars, humanity was moving, silent, focused, waiting.